get started making some pen blanks or some just resin casting projects. And you don't necessarily need to have a pressure pot, depending on which resins you're using or what types of projects you're trying to make. So I thought we'd just kind of play with it. I gotta be honest, I don't really do this a lot, so I'm not necessarily an expert on this, but I do know, some of the things that you need to look out for or think about when you're doing it. And I know some techniques, some tips on how to get the best results. So that's what we're going to be doing today. It should be kind of fun. Like I said, I don't really do this that often, so it'll be kind of fun playing around with this for me. So I hope everybody's doing good today. We got a few people in the chat room already. We'll kind of waffle around a little bit. I got a couple things that I can kind of share with you while we're waiting for folks to join the fun. But it should be pretty fun. So how's everybody doing today? What's everybody up to this weekend? Let's just chat a little bit while we're waiting for everybody to stream in. Sounds good. Nice. I like to hear that. So I got a couple things that I wanted to share that I've made and worked on. A couple weeks ago, we were kind of playing with like painting burl pieces. We did a little bit with like a dye kind of thing and some powders and made like a little bit of a mountainscape kind of thing. And then we also did a bottle stopper with color shift powder kind of painted on. And I made a couple other bottle stopper blanks. I was kind of having fun with that. So I'll switch to this view real quick. Oh, sneak peek of the mountainscape. But here's the bottle stoppers that I made. Hopefully it'll kind of come up on the camera here. My battery cable for this camera is kind of messed up, so it's hard. But so here's another snowy scape. It's just a bottle stopper size. And I just used a piece of Buckeye burl. And then did the same kind of technique, except this case I just used 5-minute epoxy, added some white dye, and a little bit of the white pearl caster's choice. And I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know, it's not exactly the same. It being such a small piece, it's not as cool as that other piece that I was working with on the stream, but I think it's going to be a pretty cool looking stopper. Adds a little bit, that caster's choice adds a little bit of that kind of pearliness to the top. And it was kind of fun. So I got one of those. That'll be up on my short runs section of my website in a little bit. And then I did another one of those with color shift powder. This time, if you didn't see the stream before, last time I tried using a UV cure resin to kind of lock down the color shift powder on the piece of burl. And it didn't really work that well. This time I just used 5-minute epoxy and we got really good results. And you can see it's really kind of neat. So I dye stabilized that burl chunk green and then just painted on a little bit of that color shift powder. And it's really neat, kind of fun. So like I said, just wanted to share those. They were kind of fun to play around with. And I also finished up the snowy scape blank. And it's pretty cool looking, actually. I'm pretty excited about it. I just went for kind of a bullet shape. It's kind of weird. You can't really see down in from the top, which is it's a little bit of a bummer. I added some of that pearl mica powder and it kind of muddied it up from the top, but you get some pretty cool looks from the side. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's kind of a different piece. I don't know. So I'll probably put this up for sale. It's one thing that's kind of neat is when the light kind of shines in from this top dome, it kind of like projects down in like a spotlight almost down in the blank. So pretty cool, just kind of having a little bit of fun with it, and I wanted to give you an update. I'm gonna be putting together a little bit of a video, kind of a short one, but it's gonna be for patrons only. I'll have that available. I'm just gonna kind of put together what I did to make that, to turn that thing and everything. So that'll be available to patrons pretty soon. I got to get on that the video editing. Let's see here. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Wow, lots of people are here. Nice. Ooh, new dust collector. Nice. That's cool. Let's see here. Pouring some Alumilite. Nice. UK. Warm in the UK, huh? Yeah, it's starting to it's actually pretty cold here. We've had some serious storms. February has been like amazing. This has been the craziest month for snow. Being a snowboarder, I am super stoked, and I've gotten the last 2 weeks have been phenomenal snowboarding up there. Just powder and it's been awesome. So 7-year-old birthday party, how fun. That's cool. You can maybe you know, watch some YouTube videos if it gets too boring, but usually the birthday parties are kind of cool. Snow in Phoenix? What? Wow. Crazy weather, guys, I'm telling you. No power tool jewelry making. Oh, that's fun. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. Yeah, what are you planning to make this weekend? Australia. G'day. That's g'day, mate. I don't know. I can't do an Australian accent, but anyway, it's awesome to see some folks from the Southern Hemisphere. One of my favorite YouTubers of late. He's not in Australia, but he's from New Zealand, is David Jones. He's a snowboarder. I kind of like watching snowboarding YouTube videos. Kind of gets me pumped up for when I'm going up. And he's from New Zealand. He's pretty fun. From Wales in the UK. How's it going, Hugh? Texas is watching. Nice. That's cool. Let's see here. Oh, Instagram. Oh, you don't have it? Well, tell you what, if you want, you can email me a picture of that and I can share it on my social media. Can it? Eastwood Chuck, nice. Snowboarders heaven, it has been. It's been pretty nuts. Let's see here. All right, so everybody's kind of checking in. So again, if you're just joining us, what I plan to do today is to just kind of go through, you know, if you're getting into casting, or there's a couple of reasons where you wouldn't use pressure for casting something. One is you've just gotten started, you don't have a pressure pot, then obviously you can't use a pressure pot. So I just wanted to kind of, you know, show people how to kind of deal with that. You can get good results. There are some things that you really don't want to do without pressure, but there's a lot of things that you can do without a pressure pot. You just got to be using the right resin, and there's some kind of tips and tricks that will get you better results and get you bubble-free castings. For anybody that doesn't know, the reason we use pressure is to remove air bubbles. That's basically what it's doing. It's not cooking it. It's not doing anything else except removing air bubbles. And so there's ways that you can kind of eliminate air bubbles before you even begin. And you know, slower setting resins will also allow air bubbles to float out before it sets up. So we'll kind of cover that. The other thing that you might run into is if you're pouring something that your mold, I'm trying to think here. If your mold won't fit in the pressure pot, basically, or the casting that you're making, for some reason it won't fit in the pressure pot, that's another reason or instance where you may need to use, you know, no pressure, because it just flat out won't fit. I've done that before. I kind of concocted something. I was making a tap handle blank. I still have the mold and all this stuff sitting in here. For, oh, I just went blank. For Kyle Toth. I couldn't think of his name. I just went blank. So I made a mold. This is what I was using for the mold. And I was pouring a tap handle blank for him. And it wouldn't fit in my pressure pot, even on its side. And so what I did was I made this mold, and then I hooked a sander up to the side. So we'll kind of get into that. That's one of the tricks you can use, is vibration will kind of help get those air bubbles to float up and out of your resin. So I think we can probably get started here. I'm sorry I was late today. I was trying to get some stuff in the stabilizing chamber to get it under vacuum today, and I was trying to, you close down the vacuum ball valve thing, and it wouldn't, it wouldn't start, increasing the vacuum. It wasn't closing off, and I'm like, what's going on? And I found out that I actually have it over here. The little connector thing, the little vacuum attachment that goes into, this is a cactus juice container, but there's a little connector piece that's plastic that you use to connect in. It was like broken, and so there was no way that you could get a vacuum seal, So then the thing, I was trying to unscrew it and it broke off, and I had to fix that, and it's just been kind of crazy. But anyway, we're gonna get started now. So what I'm gonna do here, like I said, so we've kind of gone over, the problem is I was all set to just dump some stuff in that vacuum chamber and then just sit down and kind of plan out the stream. And that forced me to have to actually try and do something up until the stream. So I'm kind of a little bit out of sorts, but We've kind of talked about a couple of reasons why you would use or why you would not use pressure. One thing that I will say is if you have access to a pressure pot, regardless of whether you need to use pressure or not, I recommend using a pressure pot. It's just going to give you a little bit of insurance to make sure that there are no air bubbles. There are ways to do it without pressure to cast stuff. However, there is going to be some, there may be some air bubbles when it's finally, cured. Pressure will help eliminate them all, and you don't have to worry about it. So if you have access to a pressure pot, put it, I use pressure on everything pretty much. I don't really ever do non-pressure casting because I have access to them. So, Peter, what's up, man? Let's see here. Michael Bell, how's it going? Rick, man, lots of people. Paul, all right. Cool. All right, so I'm going to move my camera around here and kind of get it set up, and I'll be working on my kind of main, this like desk thingy over here. We'll be kind of working there so I can kind of have stuff and I'll have the camera kind of facing me. It's a little harder when I'm over on this little casting thing to get cameras in there. So let me move my camera into position. I think what we'll do, this is probably going to be, we've been kind of running for like a couple hours on these streams. Today's is probably going to just be like an hour or so. I am not like the foremost expert at doing this kind of casting. So I definitely recommend, there are other people like Brian Blum. He runs the Facebook group Pen Blanks Resin Casting, and he does live streams as well. And he's got a lot of experience doing non-pressure casting. So I encourage you guys to go check out that Facebook group. And there's other groups out there. There's lots of people that do a lot more of this than I do. Like I said, pretty much I'm going to use pressure for everything as long as I can. So now one other thing I also want to mention that is important, if you're going to be using Alumilite clear, whether it's the regular or the slow set, either of them, you're going to need to use pressure. You have to use pressure. There's just not enough time for the air bubbles to remove themselves. So that's one resin that you do not want to use if you don't have pressure. You want to be using a slower setting resin. Most of your epoxies, and it doesn't really matter which brand necessarily, as long as it's a longer working time. What I'm going to be using today is Liquid Diamonds. It's the epoxy brand that I like the best personally. There's lots of other choices out there, and I'm not necessarily saying you should use this or anything like that. I just like it because it's very thin viscosity. It's extremely clear, and has a 45-minute working time. I don't really use it that often. I use it when I need a long working time. And so for me, that's another reason why I like Liquid Diamonds, is it has a 45-minute working time. Some of the other ones have like 30 minutes, 35, 40, like I'd rather kind of have like the longest, type of, or a really long working time, let's say. And 45 minutes seems to work pretty good. Again, going with the other things that I like about Liquid Diamonds, it makes it the one that I want to use. So that's what we're going to be using today. You want to have, like I said, that slower setting resin so that it'll have time for those air bubbles to excuse me. You'll have time for the air bubbles to float out of your resin before it sets up. All right, so let's see here. Mert. I'm good for 2 or 3. What is that? An hour. You're good for 2 or 3. I see what's going on here. Okay, so we got our camera pretty well somewhat set up. I think I'm going to switch over to that view. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do, I think, is we're just going to pour like a brick, like a batch of blanks, and we're just going to add some mica powders. Again, if you're a beginner, one thing that I usually recommend, there's lots of different ways to color resin, and there's lots of things that you can do with resin, like hybrid blanks with wood in there, pine cones, and like there's all kinds of stuff you can stick in it. And there's also lots of ways that you can add effects to it. Generally, what I recommend beginners do is just grab some mica powders, your Caster's Choice, Pearl X, Alumilite sells their Alumidust. So we're just going to pull out some Caster's Choice powders. I think that's the easiest way to get a win, like right off the bat. Just use mica powders to get your colors. They are just super easy to work with. They blend pretty well together. They're all pretty much equal weight. That's another issue you could run into with dyes. The other thing with dyes is if you're using a clear base resin, you know, you can add like blue to it, but it's going to be totally transparent, and that's usually not what people are looking for in many cases. So I just think that your mica powders are the easiest way to, you know, out of the gate, you go buy some resin, get your mold ready, add a little bit of mica powder to the mix, and then pour it in there, and you're going to get some pretty cool blanks pretty much no matter what you do. Like, there's no way to screw it up really. And even if you do kind of screw it up, what I find is there's no way to put I don't think there are two mica colors that you can put together and make like a yucky blank. They look good no matter no matter how you put them together. And even if they bleed together a little bit, you still get cool results. So it's an easy way to do it. So we'll start with a brick. This is like a probably like a 5x6 brick. I think I got that from P-Town Subby. And then the next thing that we'll do is we'll pour some pipes, some you know, cylinders, PVC pipes, and that's a pretty easy one. Then we'll do a couple of other things where you're kind of embedding stuff and doing stuff, and we'll kind of talk about some of the issues, you know, how to avoid problems if you are going to, you know, kind of step it up and start doing hybrids and things like that. So we'll do just a couple of things. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff because I don't do it that often, but there are a couple things that I can definitely share, and we can have some fun making some blanks, I think. So we're over here in the casting area. I need a drink real quick. I'm getting all excited because we're going to make some cool blanks. All right, so let's kind of get this centered on where I'm going to be working. I'm going to move this. We'll kind of come back to this little vibrating thing in a minute. Couple of tools that you might need. Okay, so obviously you're going to need your resin, you're going to need a mold, you're going to need some mixing sticks, some cups, some gloves. Did I say that yet? So I'm going to get my gloves on right now. Let's check the chat and see what's going on. Hey, thanks, Jorge. I'm glad you're enjoying them. Dave, this is a good way to start the weekend. Nice. You know, it was crazy. There's so many awesome, supportive people out there. I got an email from somebody who said, you know, thanks for your videos, and I'm going to switch back while I'm talking to you guys. He was like, thanks for the videos, and he had a question, but he was like, I'm a professor at I think he said a college professor, and he teaches speech, like, you know, like I think he said like speech. I may be saying like a communications professor. But he teaches, you know, college students speech, and he's like, you're so good on camera, it's amazing. And I was like, really? I was like, I remember when I took speech in college, it was like the biggest struggle. And I told him, I said, I think there's three things. I've been doing this for a while, and if you go back to my original videos, they're terrible. So, you know, there's one thing, you got to practice a little bit, but the other thing is I love the topic. It's like, you know, it's really fun for me. So and I know, you know, a good amount about it, so I can just kind of talk about it. But the third thing is the people. Like, it's one thing if you're just trying to give a speech to a bunch of people in a crowd that you have no clue if they care or not, but it's awesome. I think the main important thing is having people that you know are like, hey, this is going to be fun. And so, you know, it makes it a lot easier to deliver whatever you're doing. So I just wanted to kind of relate that. It was a pretty cool email. There's, like I said, so many supportive people. Ooh, got some clear PVC. Nice. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, nice. Video game controller buttons. That's cool. You got to share those. I have not seen that before. I've seen like keyboard letter things, but I have not seen game controllers. That's awesome. Definitely send pictures or like, you know, tag me or like even put a link in here to your to social media or anything, or a website, whatever you got. That'd be cool. Jeremy's here. That's sweet. Let's see here. I just saw something else. I didn't miss anything. All right, cool. So, all right, we're ready here. So we got our cups, we got our gloves on. You always want to wear gloves when you're working with resin. You got our sticks, mixing sticks. I'm going to move that out of the way. Okay, and again, I'm going to be using liquid diamonds. It's an epoxy resin, clear. The ratio, the mix ratio is 1:1, and you can actually, I'm pretty sure you can either do weight or volume. I like using weight personally for everything if I can. And I have a little scale. This is a pretty cheap scale. I have one that I like the best, and I have links to it, but this one I actually picked up to do my SWAT, the turning symposium, to weigh stuff, and it works pretty good. The only problem I have with this type of a scale that's only battery operated is the batteries die. That's not going to work. I got some kind of error message. So I'm going to be weighing my resin. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll be weighing the resin over on the scale over there when I mix it up. I can switch the little camera view over here when I do that. So, so we're going to be making a brick of blanks, pen blanks today. Let's get this camera ready so that when I am doing my mixing, you guys can, actually I'm going to try and put it in the front. We're going to see how that works. And then you can kind of see the weight amounts too. All right, so what else do we need here? We're going to get some mica powders out. Again, I'm going to be using Caster's Choice mica powders today. They work really well. So I think what I'm going to do, so we're going to do two colors. One thing that I want to say is when you're doing mixing colors like this, usually you want to wait until the resin has kind of started to thicken up. I don't really want to wait that long. So I think what we're going to do instead is we'll do like what do they call that? Like a dirty pour, or what do they call that? A flip cup pour. And if you're not familiar with what that is, you still technically want to wait until the resin has kind of thickened up. Brian uses temperature. I don't really know what the temperature numbers are, and like I said, I don't really want to wait. I just want to kind of share, how to do this. There's a little bit more involved with the technique and how I'm going to be getting everything ready. That's more important than worrying about, whether the colors bleed or not. But I think we should still get some pretty cool results doing it this way. So first things first, I need two people, first two colors that you guys type, I'm going to use. So just throw in some colors into the chat window there. Dang, I forgot my iPad again. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna go get my iPad so that I can actually watch the chat while we're doing this. I knew something was off. I felt like I was going back and forth, and oh man. I told you, I got all screwed up with that thing on my vacuum chamber breaking. It's amazing how one little stupid thing can throw the whole day off, kind of. It's a bummer because that wouldn't have happened if I was doing that earlier. So let's see what you guys put for your colors. I'll be interested to see. Actually, let's see here. Excuse me. I'm gonna do. Yeah, passion, experience, and audience. I'm telling you, it's fun. Well, it is, like I said, I really think it's the most fun when the people that you're, I guess, the audience or whatever, the people you're hanging out with are interested. It makes a big difference. Chestnut. What is chestnut? So, okay, the first two that I see in my window here are, we got a lot of blues, so we're definitely doing blue and pink, and let's see here. I think we're actually going to do 4 colors, okay? Since we're doing a flip cup, we'll put a bunch of different colors in here. And like I said, this is the cool thing about doing it this way is, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're almost not even going for anything specific. That's kind of fun, I think. I think it's an easy way to get a cool set of blanks and not really have to worry about, any other techniques with the colors and all that. So let me get my iPad set up. Sorry about the delay, guys. Oh, man. But I'll tell you what. So I went snowboarding Tuesday and Thursday this week, and I got some of the best powder runs. I don't know. I've literally, the last 4 times I've gone, I'm like, oh, this was the best day of the season. And I just keep saying it. Some of these days were probably some of the best days I think I've ever been up on the mountain. For a couple reasons. The snow was perfect. We had lots of powder and everything was great. But there's also the whether you're on or not, which I have problems with sometimes. I'm trying to learn better technique with my snowboarding. And it's kind of pushed me back a little bit in some cases. But I'm starting to kind of get better with stuff and getting better technique. And so the last few times have just been, I've been like on, let's say, and it's been really fun. Okay, so I wish there was a way that I could just see the chat. That would be even better. What happens if you turn it sideways? Okay. Oh, yeah, it does work that way. Okay, I want it sideways. All right, now I can kind of see what's going on in the chat. Oh man, you know, I wish that I would add closed captioning to my videos if it wasn't so time consuming or expensive to have somebody do it. I think YouTube kind of converts it automatically, but I think it's pretty horrible. That's something down the road that I'd like to add. Okay, so this thing takes, I'm trying to think here. I'm going to say that this probably will take about 500 grams of resin total. I may be wrong about that. Well, it should be actually 540, I think, also. So I'm just going to estimate about 540 grams for this. If we're a little over, no big deal. I don't think we're going to be under, though. And I'm going to pull out my little notebook here. Like I always say, I always recommend if you're going to get started resin casting, or even if you've been doing it for a while, get a notebook. Start keeping notes on every single pour that you do. When I started doing this, I got a lot better at doing casting for 2 reasons. One, you're just being kind of mindful about what you're doing. You mess up less when you're writing down. You know, I'm going to write what kind of resin, what mold I'm using. What resin I'm using, did I say that? Resin, mold, how much of it, you know, what the exact measurements are going to be. Liquid diamonds is 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 parts of the resin. So you got kind of a bigger jug. This is the resin. So 2 parts of this to 1 part hardener. So it makes it a little easier to do your calculations, write it down, that way you don't, you know, mess anything up. And then you can also write out, you know, what are we doing? So I'm gonna write down what colors we're adding, you know, and just kind of have all these notes about what you're doing. That way you can either recreate it if you want, or, you know, if you're kind of experimenting, you might come back and, you know, after you've turned up your pen blanks or whatever you've made, and say, like, I'm kind of estimating the amount of resin for this mold. I can't remember offhand. You know, if I mix up too much, then I can come back and say that was too much. And so next time I won't have that problem, you know. So, okay, let's see here. Let me go back. So blue, pink, I have no clue what chestnut is, so I'm just gonna, I gotta throw that out. I'm sorry. Orange and violet, okay? So, orange, these ones are brand new. I like the vibrant pink from Caster's Choice. Hopefully that'll focus. This is a really cool pink. Let's see here. Brilliant blue is one of my faves from them. It's kind of a bright blue. We got, I think we're gonna have to go with Plum Crazy, guys, because that's a really awesome. They got quite a few different purples. I like Midnight Purple. It's a little bit darker, but Plum Crazy, I think, is the way that I want to go today. There it is. Plum Crazy. All right. And what was the other one? Orange, purple, blue, pink. Orange. Don't have orange out yet. I should really organize these things somehow. So, and then blaze orange is a really good color from Caster's Choice also. And it really doesn't matter. Most of the micas are all kind of the same kind of deal. Like I said though, I do like Caster's Choice. They are a little bit finer, and they seem to mix into the resin a little bit better than some of the other ones. But, you know, either way, they all work though. Don't I see you? I can see you typing there, Andrew. Green and gold. Huh, I never thought about that. That is the colors. I should do those. Oh no, you got it. I'm glad you came out, Christina. That's awesome. Sent to by Yahoo. Oh. Yeah, don't lose your notebook. That's these things are gold, your notebook. Oh, lighter brown, I see. Yeah, I don't really have a light brown anyway, so that wouldn't have worked too well. Show us the bottoms. I guess that's a good good idea. So there you go. Pretty purple, orange, blue, pink. But you'll see it in the cup. I'll get some good shots of that. So we're gonna do 500, let's see here. One reason I like Alumilite is it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so it's a lot easier to just break it in half. I think we're gonna do 560 divided by 3. 180. Oh, okay, 540 works. So we'll do 540, and then we're gonna do, let's see here, 540 divided by 3. So we're going to do 360 grams and then 180 grams. So 360 grams of the Part A, or the resin, the bigger jug, and 180 grams of Part B, or the hardener. We're going to use the pink silicone. I think it's about a 5x6 mold, and we're doing liquid diamonds, and we're going to do 4 colors. I'm just going to split them evenly. So 540 divided by 4 is 135 each color, and we're doing bright blue. No, brilliant blue. We're doing plum crazy, vibrant pink, and blaze orange. And what I'm going to do, so that's 135 divided by 2. So I'm going to load them up with a pretty good amount of it. I'm going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of powder in each one of these things. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a larger cup. Okay, so we're going to start out with, this is a quart mixing cup. Paint mixing cup, and you can get these for pretty cheap on like Amazon or at Home Depot even. And I would actually kind of recommend these paint mixing cups if you're not using, if you're not going to be using pressure. They're very smooth. The bottom is totally smooth. The sidewalls, there's no ridges or anything. Compared to these cups, which have, you know, some lettering in the bottom and all this stuff. And these are actually a pretty decent cup, but a lot of these plastic cups have just a ton of areas where resin can kind of get trapped in there. And what ends up happening is if there's a lot of bumps and things going on, when you're mixing it, it's going to cause air bubbles to form. So the smoother the cup, the better. So we're going to start out, we're going to mix all the resin in one cup first, and we're going to use this smooth one. So I'm going to switch views to this. I'm going to try and kind of play with this and get a decent shot for you guys while we're kind of mixing this up. So first things first, get this one off of there. Put this on there. We're going to zero our scale out. See if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, happy Friday. Hey, what's up, Cortland? How's it going? Tasmania, sweet. That's cool. We almost visited Tasmania. My wife did a semester of college in Melbourne, and I came out for a couple of weeks, and we got to see. We went to. It was tough because there were so many things we wanted to see down there, but I really wanted to go to the Great Barrier Reef, so we went to Cairns, and then we went to New Zealand. And I'm not that I'm disappointed, but it was just not the best idea. We went to Auckland, but we were seriously considering heading down to Tasmania. There's so many cool places down there. So 360 grams of Part A. I'd like to get back there sometime. And then I was saying that one of my my new favorite YouTubers who just hit 100,000 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. But is David Jones. He's in New Zealand, and he snowboards at Cordrona, and I want to check that out sometime. There's a lot. That's a pretty cool snowboarding, or ski resort area. All right, so we're sneaking up on this, and the beauty of it is the seasons are offset, so I can go snowboarding in the summer in New Zealand. That's awesome. One day I will be doing that. 359. And 360, I think. Oh yeah, we're there. I'm a little bit over. Oh no, it evened out. Look at that. Right on the dot, guys. Right on the dot. And we're going to add 180 grams of Part B. So here we go. $177. And I'm going to sneak up on this. I don't want to add too much of this. So I'm going to get this. I grabbed these little condiment cups. And it's just an easy way to sneak up on, rather than holding this whole jug up. Just kind of sneak up on your number. Actually, I'm going to dump most of this back. And we're just going to drip it down to 180. That's probably close enough. Oh, look at that. On the dot, guys. After you've started using, after you've used the same scale for a while, you'll know like exactly how much you actually need to add to get to a certain thing. Like they're all kind of different, it seems. Okay, so one thing, and I actually kind of forgot to really accentuate this, but you really kind of want to pour your resins in the cup fairly slowly. You don't want to add air bubbles while you're pouring. And so I actually did that kind of not very well, but not a huge deal really. Now, the second thing that you want to do if you don't have pressure is, again, air bubbles don't, it's not like it's inherent in the resin. There's not air bubbles in the resin before you begin, like in the can or in the jug, unless you've like shaken it up a lot. Air bubbles are introduced when you're pouring it, when you're mixing it, pouring it into your mold and all that kind of stuff. That's where the air comes in. And so if you're not going to be using pressure, and I'm going to get zoomed in here. I'm going to show you this technique that I'm going to use here. It's not that big of a deal. And it's not that exciting, I guess, really. But the key to this is you don't want to mix it. Most of my videos, I just get in there and I'm mixing furiously because I'm using Alumilite clear most of the time, or even if I'm using like liquid diamonds or something else, I'm going to be pressurizing most of the stuff, so I don't really care if I mix in some small air bubbles. But in this case, I don't want to do that. I want to keep it, under control. And so you're going to mix it extremely slow. And I would actually put the mixing stick like all the way down to the bottom of the cup and just stir very slow so you're not agitating the resin a lot. Now, what you're going to have to do is mix this stuff for a lot longer time, and that's why I typically just mix stuff fast, because I don't want to mess around with it. But if you're intentionally not trying to get air bubbles in your resin, then you really want to just mix it slow. So let's get the camera over here a little closer. I'm going to zoom out. Don't watch the video because I'm going to move the camera real quick, guys. Try and get a kind of a shot over. Oh, sorry. Power plug's causing problems on me. There we go. We get kind of an overhead shot of what's going on in the cup here. And I'm tripping on cords. Everything's just gone to pot, guys. Here we go. So you can kind of see what's going on here. So like I said, tip 1, don't stir like your life is ending. Stir it nice and slow. And whenever you're mixing resins, you want to scrape the sides of the cup, the bottom real good. Basically, you want to get all the little part A's and part B's mixed together totally. You can have curing issues with your resin if you have, unmixed parts, in the cup that you dump into your mold. A lot of times, if you see some issues, if you see some like wet spots, if there's like wet, if your blanks tend to weep some sort of a liquid, a lot of times that means that there was some pocket in your blank where there was unmixed resin, and like the rest of it hardened fully around that, let's just call it like part A, didn't get mixed in, and you got a little blob of it. So it's not going to cure if it hasn't been mixed together with the part B. So you can see there's a few air bubbles. I don't know if you can see that here. I do have some air bubbles in here. I don't know how well the camera is picking that up, but there's not that many compared to the way I normally mix resin. This is nothing, So we're doing pretty good. We still have a ways to go though, because I can still see some, and I'm going to try and get a good shot of this, maybe kind of a little sideways shot. I can still see that it's not totally clear. There's little wispy trails of resin. That means that you haven't gotten it mixed up well. Hey Tesha, how's it going? Oh, what is going on? No, I don't want YouTube TV. It's not available in my area. Thank you, YouTube. Quit giving me that thing. Quick question. How do you anchor wood to the mold so it doesn't float? Use melamine. Typically what I will do, if I need to anchor something down, I use a hot glue gun. That is by far the easiest way. I do that with HDPE molds. Here's my glue gun. I like this DeWalt. These things are really good. It heats up super quick and it works well. So I'll just hot glue stuff down in the mold if I need it to stay. The other way you can do it is you can if it's sticking up out of the top of the mold, you can just put a piece of tape over it to hold it down. Or you could like wedge it, in there. Sometimes I'll just do that for like a single pen blank type thing. Silicone molds can be helpful in that way, where you can kind of just wedge it between the walls of it because it'll move a little bit. But yeah, hot glue gun is the way to go. So we're still mixing. Like I said, it's going to take significantly longer to mix your resin up fully if you're doing it, driving Miss Daisy style. But it's a good way to go. If you don't start out with air bubbles, you won't have them in the mold. Best resin for a river table. To be honest, I don't really think, I don't have experience. I've never done one of those, and I haven't used a bunch of the different, if you've done research into resin river tables, the epoxies that they're using are not typically, you know, Alumilite is not, you do not want to use Alumilite clear, period. So they're using different ones. You know, there's people who use Total Boat and Eco Epoxy and all these other things. And I got to be honest, I don't really think, again, not having experience with it, I don't know for sure, but I don't really think it matters, really. I would probably just use a cheaper one. I know Liquid Diamonds works. I've talked to Chad actually about it, and I'm probably going to do a resin river table with Liquid Diamonds. Sponsored by Turner's Warehouse. They're going to supply the resin someday down the road. We've kind of talked about it. So I think Liquid Diamonds will work. I think all those other ones will work. So I would probably just kind of shop around, find a cheap one. I don't think it really matters too much, but I would, you know, it might be better to ask somebody who does them more often if there's really a good reason to use something else or something specific. But I think, honestly, I think they're all kind of the same thing. And I think some of the products are marked up, just it's a marketing thing, you know. Yeah, Total Boat seems to be contacting. They talked to me and asked if I wanted to try their stuff. The problem with me is I don't really see much value in me using a bunch of different resins. I sell products with Alumilite, and I think it's the best one for turning blanks, period. So I don't really need to use other people's resins. It just doesn't really suit me, and I'm not going to get any results that are any different than what I get already with the products that I use. But that's just, you know, and I'm not saying that Alumilite's necessarily better or worse. It's just, I'm not going to change my product line. So I don't see the point in really messing around with a bunch of different resins. I would rather get the resins I use to work for different types of things, you know. But like I said, I don't really think there's a whole lot of problem with most of these products. Most of them work pretty well. The one thing I will say is they all kind of have slightly different specifications. So, you know, you might want to look at that. Different working times, different viscosities. But I don't know that it matters for a resin river table. If anybody knows out there in the chat room, definitely pipe in, because I don't, like I said, I don't really know that much. Let's see. Illinois, sweet. How are the Cubs looking this year? Are they going to be in the playoffs? Arizona, nice. Krakow, where's that? I'm not sure where that is. All right. Just kind of checking out, see what's going on. Hey, what's up, Doug? How's it going, man? Okay, so we got our, I think it's pretty well mixed up at this point. I'm looking at the resin. There's no wispy trails going around. Now I have managed to, you know, add some bubbles. So let's see if I can get a shot of the air bubbles that are in there right now. Try and get I need to plug my camera back in. The viewfinder thing, the picture is brighter so I can tell what's actually happening. So you can see there's some air bubbles in there. But that's not a big deal, not a big problem. It's a lot less than normal. And another reason why Liquid Diamonds works pretty well and why I like it is if I was to do this without without pressure, it's so thin. The thinner the viscosity, the easier it is for air bubbles to float out of it also. So it is kind of an advantage having such a thin liquid. Now, one thing you can do is, because we got 45 minutes of working time here, you can just set this aside, and these air bubbles in this big cup are just going to kind of float to the surface. And what you can do is you can grab a, you know, if you have one of those propane blowtorch things, or this is one of the like butane, I think, torches. This thing can be a little bit aggressive sometimes. You could even just use a, where did that other thing go? You could even just use one of these like candle lighter things. They're a little bit, you know, the flame is kind of weak on these, but it's at least not aggressive, and it's not going to like burn the epoxy. But like I said, or a blowtorch, whatever you want to use. But you can also aid in the popping of the bubbles by using flame. Now, or heat. Actually, that's the other thing I wanted to show you. I just got a new heat gun because my Harbor Freight one bit the dust the other day when I was messing with those color change things. Totally, like, it was a 2-speed heat gun, and somehow it found like warp speed, and that was the only speed it was on, and it totally like lit on fire. So Harbor Freight, I got my like 2 years out of it. so I guess I'm happy, but I decided to try something different. I got this on Amazon, and it really wasn't that much more than I probably paid for the other one. So, and look at this thing. This thing's wicked. This thing's seriously like industrial powered. So that's another thing, is you can just use a heat gun and blow heat in there. It's mainly the heat. It's not the flame that is going to pop bubbles. It's the heat. So I'm going to use that little butane torch. I've kind of gotten used to that thing. It's not that important to do this right now, but you can. So let's see if I can, it's going to be kind of hard to get a camera shot of this actually happening before your eyes, but hopefully that'll work. Heating the mold can also give you that same effect. Hot air rises. So, you know, if your mold has been warmed up, which I didn't do that to this one, I kind of forgot. But if your mold is hot, it's also going to, you know, make those air bubbles want to float up as they heat up. So you can kind of wait around and keep popping the bubbles on the surface and then let more come up. Right now, though, we still have work to do, so it's not that important to get rid of all these bubbles right now. But I just wanted to kind of mention that. You can kind of set it aside for a good amount of time. Like, you know, if you got 45 minutes of working time, you can just walk away from this cup for probably like 20 minutes and come back, and most of your air bubbles have probably floated out or near the surface. You can kind of knock them down and you'll have a fairly clear, you know, cup. And the rest of them will come out, you know, later on. Now, adding the mica powders to this and mixing that in is going to also promote more air bubbles. So I just want to kind of mention that. I'm not really, I could have weighed these, but I'm just going to try and kind of equally pour about the same in. I know I need 2 more cups. Don't worry. I got them right here. So I'm going to dump these out. We're going to add different color micas to each one. I guess I don't need 4. That's probably pretty close to even, something like that. There we go. And we got our micas. Let's make sure that we're getting a good shot of this here. Try not to get resin all over my camera. And I'm going to go and get my 1/4 teaspoon. Let me get behind the camera so I can make sure I'm showing you guys. This is actually literally a 1/4 teaspoon thing. And we're going to, you could add a little bit of dye, but there's no reason to. You don't need to. So about a 1/4 teaspoon of orange. And then what I'm going to do is wash this off. A little bit. I have a bottle. You can just use water, but I have a bottle of denatured alcohol handy that I use to wash these off with. You could probably even just blow it off if you have compressed air by you. So we got our orange. Let's go for some blue here. And this is kind of a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon. It's a pretty fat quarter teaspoon. More is not going to hurt anything though. You could probably, really, you can just wipe off the spoon. I'm a little bit kind of crazy. My only thing is I don't want to mix in. I want to make sure that I don't have any mica, like blue, left when I put it into the purple. So I'm a little bit kind of anal about it, but we got our purple. I'll show you the wiping method. It works fine. Like I said, I'm a little overboard with it, using liquid to clean it off, but that's fine. There's nothing on there. And last, we got pink. Whoa! Who's awesome? I'm awesome. I think you're awesome. Thanks, Jamie. That's a great way to help support the show. Super chat. What are you up to today? Oh, that was stupid. There's no resin in there. Okay, I'm gonna put that aside. I don't want to mess this up. I want to do the fourth cup is right here. I'm an idiot. Jamie gives me a super chat, and I got all excited. I got all excited, and I was like, "Whoa! Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. I'm really looking forward to Maker Central, dude. I can't wait to meet you in person, hang out, have some fun. It's gonna be so cool." Okay, so we're gonna add our mixing sticks, and again, I'm gonna try and mix this stuff fairly slowly. I don't really want to introduce a lot of extra air bubbles into each one of these cups. One thing you definitely want to avoid is like mixing it where you like kind of pull it up and you're how do you explain that? Like where you're pulling the thing, resin out of the cup and then putting it back in. Like you don't want to be doing it that way. You'd rather just, like I said, bury the stick into the bottom of the cup and just mix it in a circle. That will give you the least amount of air bubbles. Okay, so we got our pink. Now, another thing that I should have done was set a timer, or start a clock to know how much working time I have left. Quick question for anybody that knows the temperatures that we're supposed to use for liquid diamonds before I think it's like 120 degrees, is that right? That, like, if you reach a certain temperature, and I haven't done a lot of testing with this, so I don't use this method myself, but I think that once it reaches a certain temperature, you don't have much, the colors won't bleed as much or at all. So does anybody know what that is? Yeah, don't beat the resin. I guess that, yeah, I don't know what the term is, the proper term, but you don't want to do that, because basically what you're doing is, there's air everywhere else up here, and if you're basically trapping, air molecules when you pull it out and then slap it down on top of the rest of the resin. So if you're just kind of mixing it around in a circle, there's a lot less chance of getting air trapped down into the resin. How's it going, Adrian? How many people are here? Is there 161 people here? Are we kidding? Got all flustered. I know, man, you got me all flustered. 133, huh? Does Pam use, but she's using Alumilite, right? Alumalite's different than liquid diamonds. I think Alumilite might be the 90. I'm just gonna go with, hey, Alex is here. What's up, man? Don't whip the resin. That's a good one. Whip it. Don't whip it. Whip it good. I think it's 120. Oh, wow. That got kind of that clumped up on my stick. What's going on here? Franklin. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Did I miss one? Hold on a minute, guys. Nope. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss one. I appreciate the support. What's up, Vatos? Hey, or is it snowing right now? Someone said it was snowing in, I think in Phoenix. Are you gonna go snowboarding? If it is? Hey, happy Saturday! 155. Man, we got numbers all over. Which is better? Okay, I kind of covered this. They kind of have different purposes. If you want the easiest way to add color, mica powders are your best choice. They're hard to screw up. Dyes work good too, and you can get different results. So, you know, if you're going to use a dye, most of them are going to be transparent, unless you add an opaque colorant with it. So I typically just use Alumilite dyes, and they work with any resin. You can get opaque colors if you add white Alumilite, you know, their white dye to it. But that's the thing, is it starts to get kind of complicated when you're using the dyes, and it's going to take a good amount of practice to kind of figure out what all's going on, unless you're just going for transparent. So in general, you know, what's better? I don't know, but you know, mica powders look amazing. You're going to get that nice pearly effect, and you know, pretty much whatever the jar looks like, you know, that's what it looks like in the jar, right? Here's what it's looking like in the resin. It's pretty close. Like, you know, you got a good idea of what you're getting by just looking at whatever the powder looks like. So, you know, I think it's best for beginners to just go with micas. I just think that you're going to get the best results, and it's going to be so much easier for you. But down the road, depending on what kind of effects you're trying to get, dyes can add different things to the mix, you know. All right, so I think I'm going to pull out I do have one of those temperature gauges. I'm just curious. I'm going to do this pretty soon. The proper way to do this is to wait for that 120 degrees, or like I said, I don't even know what the number is, to help make sure that your colors stay pretty separated. But I'd rather move on to something else and just kind of see what we get. Again, with the mica powders, it's pretty hard to get bad results. Even if the colors bleed a little bit, you're just adding more colors to it, but I don't think it's really going to look bad. So let's see if I can get, I'm going to have to move this closer and go from a higher vantage point, but I think I can get this on camera of me doing the temperature gauge thing. Move my stick out of the way so we don't measure that. 80 degrees, so we're not even close, really. '81. '80. So like I said, I think that I got to be honest. I'm pretty sure liquid diamonds is 120. I think that's what Brian Blum suggests. So that's what I would recommend for doing a flip cup. That's what we're trying to do here. Is we're going to end up doing a flip cup pour. So I don't know if is anybody not familiar with what a flip cup pour is. I'll tell you anyway, but I figure many of you probably know what that is. It's kind of a fun way to just get a color swirl effect. Like I said, I would suggest waiting till the resin warms up. But again, this is also going to bring us to another issue with not using pressure. When you wait and the resin thickens up, it has, you know, the air bubbles have less, they're less able to free themselves from the resin. And that's why we use pressure for a lot of these things. If you're trying to keep colors separated, you really need to wait till the end of the working time which means that the resin is, one, closer to when it hardens up fully, and it's also going to thicken up at that point when it's warmer. So that's one of the tough things with, you know, not using pressure, and this is why I advocate using pressure for everything, because it just, it's going to guarantee you, you know, no air bubbles no matter what. So, but we don't have to you don't have to use it, and we're going to get perfectly good results with this. It just might be a little bit more blended together. We might get a little bit of bleeding. So what we're doing here is we're going to pour all the colors into this one cup. What you do is you put your mold, let's just say that this was the cup that had all the resin in it. So we're going to dump all of these colors into one cup. We're going to put the mold like this, and we're going to flip it, and then you just release the cup and all the colors go kind of crazy. It's kind of just a fun way to get interesting, different kind of results. The other way that I would do color swirl is I'll pour, you know, let's the pink in first, a little bit, like half of this cup pink. Then I would pour some orange around, then some purple, blue, and then do it all again, pour the rest of each cup. And so that's one way of getting kind of like swirly stripes. And at the end, you could, you know, take like a popsicle stick, you know, one of your mixing sticks, or like a toothpick or something, and you can get a little bit tighter swirling if you just kind of carefully swirl it around. So that's one way of doing it. We're going to do the flip cup, where it's a little bit more like just chaos, you know. So it's pretty fun though. You get some pretty cool results. You can put a ton of different colors in there, and it just all kind of goes crazy. The art resin people, the people that do like the art painting stuff, they do this sometimes. They call it like a dirty pour sometimes. And it just kind of gives you, like I said, it mixes those colors around just chaotically, and you get some interesting results. So I figured we'd just do that this time. Now, that temperature thing, if you're not using pressure, I'd be curious to see what, you know, Brian and some of these other people that do this a little bit more often, if they would recommend maybe, you know, going with a little bit lower temperature. Or maybe they might argue that you got to do it like right when it's 120, get it in there, and then that way it'll settle down and your air bubbles will trying to kind of, you know, come out of the resin on their own. So I think we got this. So what I'm going to do here, I guess I'm going to bring the camera back in to show me pouring the resin into this cup here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just pour the resin. And I'm going to do this slowly again. I'm going to get rid of this mixing stick. I'm going to kind of pour it slowly and just pour this orange in this kind of area, this side of the cup. I don't know if it really matters a whole lot where you pour it, but that's the technique that I'm going to use, you know, for this. You could do different stuff. It's these flip cup ones are really fun. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what happens. You're just kind of being chaotic about it. Let whatever happens happen, kind of thing. Sorry, I can't see the chat right now. I'm just trying to get this first one poured and ready to rock. Now, keeping colors separated, like I said, is kind of somewhat, it can be a little bit more problematic when you don't have pressure, because you kind of want to wait till the end of the working time to keep those colors separated. Another way to kind of, if you don't have pressure, a good way to go is just use one color, you know, and maybe do embedding. You know, do some hybrid blanks where like you got wood in half of the mold, and then just pour one color. That way you don't have to worry. You can pour it right away. You don't have to worry about it bleeding or anything like that. And we'll do a couple of examples of that too. All right, we got our blue in there. So we got all of our little colors all in one cup. Now, one thing you can do, we could just pull this mixing stick completely out right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it just a, make sure that you guys are kind of seeing this as well as possible. I'm just going to give it a very slight stir. Get that mixing stick out of there. And I'm going to put my mold on top of the cup. We're going to zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see the flipping in action. We're doing resin tricks, guys. Okay. Silicone molds work really well because they kind of, you know, they're going to stick to the rim of the cup pretty well. It works fine with HDPE molds too, though. These work fine. I've done it in these too. Either way. All right, so are you guys ready for this? I'm going to check the chat and see what's up. Cat pen blank. What kind of a cat? I've had tons of happy accidents with regards to resin. Actually, to be honest, some of the best. Before we're gonna hold off real quick, guys. I'm just gonna stop for a second, and oh, I guess you can't see me because the intro cam is not set up right. What about casting? Is that one set up? No. Huh. Oops. Turning. All right. Well. I got this camera. I'll just, you won't see me. You're going to look at that cup for a second. But I'm going to check the thing. Some of the best things that I've kind of like random effects and things, some of the best things have come from accidents. Yeah, drum roll. So, you know, yeah, I know that there are a few companies that sell like opaque and transparent different dyes. You need to watch out though. Cast and Craft is generally a polyester resin company, I think, and most of their dyes will not work, or many of them will not work with Alumilite for sure, and some epoxies because it has like water in it somehow. So you got to watch out with, you know, which brands you're using. You're holding your breath waiting for the chaos. My cat would definitely. Let's see. When leaving it to cure, is there a temp that you should keep it at? That's a really good question, Jason. You want to keep it above, definitely above 50. Really, resin likes warm, and so, you know, while you're working with it in the shop, you really want to be as close to room temperature, which is about 70 degrees. I really wouldn't advise going too much lower than like 50. Now, if you can get your shop warmed up, and I have a video about this, casting in cold temperatures, but my recommendation is if you got a, you know, cold garage, if you can get the temperature up, you know, somewhere close to, you know, 60, 70-ish in the winter, warm the shop up first, store your resins in the house. Leave them in a you know, room temperature environment the whole time. Bring your jugs out once the shop has warmed up. Do your casting. Pull them out. Now, this is the problem. If you're using Alumilite, it's going to be ready within, you know, 1, maybe 4 hours, depending on which Alumilite clear you're using. If you're using you know, liquid diamonds, like an 8-hour demold time, then I would actually just recommend bringing the pressure pot inside the house if you can, somewhere where it's warm, or maybe put an electric blanket over it. Do something to keep that temperature up. Now, once you've demolded them, they aren't cured fully. They're hardened, and so that's the difference between demold time and cure time. Full cure for liquid diamonds is like a week, I think, and for Alumilite it's 5 days. So you want to keep your blanks in a warm environment, is, you know, for that, until they're fully cured, or else you could have some issues. And if it's starting to drop anywhere close to like freezing, then you're going to have problems with curing. Okay, so I think we're ready for some chaos, guys. What do you think? I'm going to try and make sure that we got like the best view of this craziness that we possibly can. I'm going to kind of lift it up a little bit, so try and get this down. So I think we're ready. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. when you do a cat pen. I've never seen a cat pen blank. All right, here we go. We're gonna flip it. So I'm gonna just kind of keep a little bit of pressure down on the cup. It's not that big of a deal with the silicone mold. This works pretty easily. It's gonna kind of seal the rim, but oh, I've lost a little bit of it. I didn't do very well on that, but it actually is already looking pretty cool. So most of it's still in the cup. I did lose a little bit of it, but I didn't. Usually I do it quick, and I don't know what I was doing that time. This looks like an oil slick. You guys see that? That's looking cool. All right, so that's just a little bit that leaked out at the beginning. Now I'm gonna pull the cup up. Oh, yeah, I was pretty close on the amount there. It's full. It's a little easier and less messy if you use a mold that is a little bigger than the amount of resin that you poured in there. But I think this is going to turn out pretty cool. We just got a little bit of extra on the edges there. All right, now there's a few air bubbles on the top right now. This may not be the greatest. Again, if you're not using pressure, there may be more chance for getting air bubbles in this type of thing. But I got my little blowtorch, so I'm going to kind of pop some air bubbles. And this is kind of the nice thing about having one of these longer working time resins. What we're going to do is we're not putting it in the pressure pot, you know, so it's going to be out. What the best thing to do is to kind of come back every like 5 to 10 minutes and pop some more air bubbles on the surface. You know, and again, heating the mold would have been a lot smarter. I just forgot to put it in the oven, but that will help kind of make the air bubbles want to kind of float up to the surface. Another thing is the resin is going to heat up. We were just talking about the resin heating up, and the resin's going to warm up, which is also going to kind of promote those air bubbles kind of climbing to the top. Again, hot air wants to rise. So I think you're going to be fine. Now, worst case scenario, we don't have any embedded stuff in this. It's just resin, right? Worst case scenario, you might have a couple of air bubbles, but in the end, whoop-de-doo. You just fill it with a little bit of CA glue and you won't even notice it. You know, it's not going to be like riddled with air bubbles using these slower setting resins. It's going to be fine. You just may have a few depending on how thick it was when you poured it and how you stirred it and all that kind of stuff. So once the fire, oh, one thing I want to mention about using a flame. You only want to use a flame on an epoxy product. Do not use flame with polyester resin. Okay, that stuff will light on fire. Not a good one. Not a SoCal. Nice. I like Southern California. What about Illumidust? I'm not sure what that question is. Flossy. Yeah, flossy finish. Yes. Get the mop. Well, actually, I think I'm just going to let it kind of cure, and then I'll just pop it off. Okay, let's see here. Fire. Brian's here. What's up, man? Yeah, I'll have these things for sale. They'll be up on my short runs section of my website. Now, what's the fire stuff? I don't know if you're asking if that's serious. This thing is a butane torch. You can get them. A lot of the art resin people use it, and you fill it on the bottom. There's a little hole. Let me get behind the camera so I can do this right. So there's a little hole in the bottom, and then you fill it with butane fuel. And it's just, you pull the little safety down and then it lights up. You got to kind of watch out. This thing's kind of aggressive. Another thing you can use is just a lighter. I have one of these candle lighter things. I don't know what they call these. That'll work. It's a little bit on the not so aggressive side, so you got to really kind of get close. It's kind of a pain. I don't really like that. You could also use a heat gun. I just bought this because I had to replace my Harbor Freight one. So you could use a heat gun kind of on a low, you don't want to blow it all over the place, so kind of a low fan setting, but you know, you can kind of warm it up that way. That'll pop bubbles. Or you could use just like a propane torch or, you know, MAP. Like something like this. I don't know if that's on camera. Like one of these guys. That works pretty good. The flame's kind of wider on those, so in some cases I would almost say the blowtorch things are they kind of work pretty good. I just like that little one. Just kind of easy to use. We got a couple more coming up. You got to kind of watch out if you're using like a heat gun. Like I said, anything that's blowing, it's going to kind of move your resin around a little bit. So I'm going to put a link real quick just in case. Hey, what's up, Gordon? Thank you for the super chat. What do I use to clean out Alumilite bottles? That's actually a really good question too. So I'm gonna kind of, you guys are probably, I'll show you some shots of that thing as we go. We're gonna move on to the next one, but I'll just, still not high enough. Jeez, I'm tall. All right, so what I do is I have 10-gallon kits. I buy it in the 10-gallon, like Alumilite or resin, 10 gallons. And then I just fill up my gallon jugs with it. And so what ends up happening is I like to clean these out. After I've used up 10 gallons of the resin and I get a new one, I'm gonna clean out this bottle. I use acetone to clean it out. You could use, I like acetone best because it dries fastest. That's why I like acetone. It's a little bit harsher, and you got to kind of watch out. You really want to be using, or you want to be in a well-ventilated area. Turn a fan on. You don't want to breathe that stuff. The fumes are pretty nauseous, you know, from acetone. But it dries super fast, and I like that the best because I don't want to wait around for this stuff to get out of the bottle. You don't want to start filling your jug until all of that solvent is gone, whether it be acetone or denatured alcohols the other way. I've heard somebody say that you can clean up resins with vinegar. I have not confirmed that, but it might work. I would contact whatever resin type you're using if you want to use that. It's a little bit less harsh. I got to be honest, the smell of vinegar, for me, I would rather have to smell acetone than vinegar personally, so I don't really want to use that in my shop. But if you do want to look into that, call the manufacturer for the resin you use just to make sure that it actually will work. I'm not sure, but somebody did mention that. So there you go. Hope that helps out. And I use acetone or denatured alcohol to kind of clean up resin. Like I could use, you know, acetone to clean up this little spill if I want. I'm just going to let it kind of harden and then pop it off though. Let's see here. Yeah, blow around the resin. Yep. Vinegar will eat the rust off things. That's true. Yeah, just the gallon jugs. I don't mess around with, I just throw away the 10-gallon things. All right, so let's do the next little experiment. We are going to go with, I'm going to clean off some of this area since I kind of made a mess. With my first resin pour. I'm going to clean it off and we're going to go with, let's do like kind of embedding some stuff. I was going to do a PVC pipe, but that's really going to be kind of the same thing as what we just did. So you can use PVC pipes. The only difference I would say, The only difference compared to like a tray pour like we just did in a bigger mold is it's a little harder to pour into the tube just because the hole's so much smaller. The nice thing about doing tubes is, you don't have to worry about cutting it out, which is going to waste, if you're using a table saw, it's going to be an 1/8 inch kerf for every cut you make. That's quite a bit of resin that you've just cut away first off, and then when you're turning it, the corners, that's just wasted resin also. So the tubes make things a little bit easier. I still end up cutting mine, a little bit off, so there's going to be some waste if you're going to cut them square at the ends, but pretty much the same type of thing. So I think we're going to skip that. We're going to do some embedded stuff next. Didn't I say that this was going to be like only an hour? I always talk too much. Okay, so for this, what we're going to do is, let's get one of these. We're going to do a couple different things. So we're going to use this 4 blank. It's also a silicone mold. I think silicone is, you can make your own HDPE molds, or you could use melamine, works okay. I would actually say that if you're going to use melamine, I would probably line it with Tyvek tape. I just think that that's a better way to go, because a lot of the melamines and a lot of resins will stick pretty well to melamine. You definitely need to use a mold release with it, but I would actually line the melamine with Tyvek tape, I think, is probably your best bet. Then also still use a little bit of mold release. But if you're just getting into it, PVC pipes are super cheap. And you don't have to use clear ones. I just do it so that people can see, and I can see what's going on in there. But the white ones at your home center, that works. It's the same exact thing. Silicone molds, whether it be a brick or these kind of single blank kind of things, are a pretty easy way to go. You don't have to worry about demolding anything. And you could make them yourself if you pick up some silicone, or Turner's Warehouse has these, P-Town Subby. They're pretty easy to work with and easy to demold and all that stuff. Typically, I would recommend warming these up, but we don't have time to warm it up, so it's not going to be, we're not going to do that today. But I would typically suggest doing that. I'm trying to get some of this, there's some junk in here. I'm going to go and blow this out. I just usually, you can clean these with denatured alcohol. I usually just blow them out. That usually works good enough. So let's get set up over here. We're going to do some embedding, and like I was saying, these silicone molds work pretty good because they can kind of hold things down in some cases, and again, they're just kind of easy to demold. One issue I have, so we're going to do a little bit of aluminum honeycomb. We can do a couple of those guys. And I got some burl chunks, some double die stabilized burl. Now these don't, oh yeah, actually this is about the right size. If you get it about the right size, the silicone is going to hold this down. It probably won't float anyway, but if you do have a wide enough piece, silicone molds will kind of hold stuff in place for you, which is kind of nice. I think I'm going to cut that down a little bit, but the other thing that I wanted to do, and I don't know if I have one. Yeah, I do. We're going to do a pine cone. So we'll do 4 different things here. I just had 2 of those sitting there, but how about a pine cone? All right, so we'll do a little bit of embedding. Now, this is where things can kind of get a little bit more difficult if you're not using pressure. I would say especially with the pine cone. If you have something, the honeycomb is not a problem because there's room for the air to, get all the way to the surface once you've embedded this stuff in the resin. Wood chunks, as long as there's, room for the resin to flow around it, you're not going to get air pockets or anything like that, and it shouldn't be a problem. Where you run into a problem is if you stuck this on the top somehow and there's resin under there. There's no way for these air bubbles that are down underneath this piece to get out. So you just want to make sure that you kind of, push things all the way down to the bottom. And like I said, I'm going to cut this thing down a little bit so it'll fit in there. But as long as your embedded thing is all the way down to the bottom, and then you pour your resin into the bottom, the lowest point, and let it kind of flow up, you should be fine. Now with a pine cone, obviously there's going to be stuff, you know, in the way of your resin. So that's probably your worst case scenario, something like that. Or something that has like, like rice or something, you know, like where there's a lot of things mixed in with your resin. That's going to be the worst case. And in general, if you're going to embed stuff, I would highly recommend just using pressure. Then you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. You can still get air, like a big zone of no resin, if the resin just can't, you know, reach it somehow. You don't want to trap an air pocket in there. But the little champagne size looking air bubbles, they're going to be taken care of by the pressure pot, like all of them. All right, so let's see here. Art of making it. Did I get another super chat? Hey, nice. Thanks for the super chat. I am glad that you got it today, and I can't wait to see what you make. I think one of the, I've sold pen blanks for a long time, you know, for many years now, and I've kind of just gotten into selling. I sell this aluminum honeycomb, and I sell the where are they? I have examples of them somewhere. The color shift powder and the starlight glitter stuff. And it's really fun selling casting supplies. I love seeing all the pens and everything that people make, but it's really cool seeing people, like, casting is really kind of the thing that I really love. So it's been really fun having things that, you know, I tried to come up with stuff that's not nobody else really sells, and offer that to casters. So it's pretty cool. Can't wait to see it. So I'm going to go over, I'm just going to cut off, what I want is this little nub cut off of this so it'll fit better. So I'm just going to go to the bandsaw real quick, cut it off, and then we can kind of set this up. And I'll show you how I'll show you some tricks when you're doing, you know, embedded stuff. Nope. You got to plug the bandsaw in before you turn it on. I need to get I need to wire up one of those, a box, you know, with like 4 plugs. That'd be great over here. All right. Now, one other thing that I'm going to do is I've cut off that little nub. So it should fit. Yeah, it fits perfectly in there now. But what I want to do is I want to actually just kind of go to the sander and just kind of round this all over. So I'm just going to do that real quick, and I'll show you what I've done at the end here. It takes 2 seconds, and it'll just make things kind of look a little bit better. I always like having round edges on things, so we got that. Okay, so we got a few different types of materials here. When I'm embedding honeycomb, what you do not want to do is stick the honeycomb in your mold and then pour resin over the cells. That is going to trap a ton of air pockets and it's never coming out. The proper way to do honeycomb, or something like this where there's like holes all the way through, pour your resin in your mold, in your line here, and then you push this down into the resin, and then that air that's in the cells is just going to be pushed out once you push it down into the resin. So that's how you're going to do those two materials. I would also do that with the pine cone. I think you're going to get the best results kind of pushing it down into your mold. It just won't trap as much air. With these two pieces, again, I want these all the way down in the bottom of my mold, and then I'm just going to pour the resin right here, where it's going to reach all the way down to the bottom of this little channel, and it's going to kind of fill up and around my little pieces. So what I'm going to do is probably just one color for all these things. Again, that's going to give you the best results. You can mix it up, and once it's settled out, I was kind of showing you earlier in the large cup. Wow, this thing's all demolished. Huh. My cups are all cracked. That's ridiculous. I was showing you that you can mix up your resin in your cup and literally just set it aside. So we got 45 minutes of working time with liquid diamonds. Mix it up, add your part A and part B, mix it, real well for like probably about 5 minutes or so. And then just set your cup completely aside for like 20 minutes and come back. And you'll notice, at least with liquid diamonds, most of the air bubbles that were in there are probably floated up to the top or near the top or are completely gone. So just let it sit for a while and it'll take care of it. Then you can come back and just pour it in there without any worry about bubbles. The other way you could do this is just add, like I said, like one color or one dye or something like that. And then just, you know, pour it right away. And then in the mold, it'll have that same effect. It'll have a long time. If you got 45 minutes of working time and it took you 5 minutes to get it prepared, then for 40 minutes, it's going to be, you know, it's going to have 40 minutes or so for the air bubbles to kind of float up and out. And then again, you can kind of tap it. You could use vibration. That will also promote the air bubbles kind of coming out. You could like strap a sander to your mold. I did that, you know, back in the day. I've done that before. They have vibrating tables that people I've seen use. Also using, you know, heat. Again, your best bet is to heat up your mold. I just don't have time to do that today, but I would typically do that. You can pop your bubbles with a little bit of fire. So let's tell you what, let's mix up 2 different colors, but we're going to just do these as one color pours. So what 2 colors do you want to see? So I'm probably going to do, like, you know, with these 2 different kind of honeycombs, we'll do one color in one color in the other, and then same thing here, one color and the other color. So first 2 people to toss out some color recommendations. We'll go with that. Let's try and maybe go with something a little different. And don't do, like, I don't know what chestnut is. Don't do a weird color like that. Okay, so let's see here. If it was imperative to have the vacuum chamber. Some silicones don't require you. They're like thin enough that the air will come out. It's not 100% necessary, but it definitely helps. What can happen is if you get air bubbles in the silicone mold itself and you're going to be pressurizing it, that's actually the key. If you don't plan to pressurize your silicone mold, then it really doesn't matter that much. But what ends up happening is pressure is going to collapse the air bubbles. And so every time you put that mold under pressure, it's going to deform when those air bubbles go away for a minute. And then when you release the pressure, it's going to come right back. So it's not a good idea. You don't want air bubbles in there. Vacuum, you know, degassing it is the way to go. One other thing that you can do, and I'll try and show this sort of in action. I would recommend check out Punished Props on YouTube. They have some really good silicone mold making videos. That's kind of pretty much I learned from them. But let's say that, well, let's just say that this is the mold box that you would be using right here. See if I can get that on camera. Whatever, you're pouring your silicone into this box. What you want to do, if you do not have vacuum, and again, I would highly recommend, if at all possible, to use vacuum, but to degas your silicone. And I have a video on how to make I basically made a mold like this, and it shows this stuff. But another technique that you can use is to, like, you know, mix up your silicone. The problem is most silicones are super thick, like taffy-ish kind of stuff, like molasses, you know, and so you're going to mix in air bubbles into it. It's just unavoidable for most of them. I will say that the Alumilite High Strength 1, 2, and 3, that stuff is pretty thin, so you might be able to get away without using degassing vacuum on it. But if you can't degas it, mix it up. And so let's just say that you mixed up silicone in this cup. What you want to do is bring your cup, let's see, I'm not even really on camera, but bring it way up when you're pouring your silicone in, and only let a very thin stream come out of your cup. And basically you're going to be kind of degassing it, or letting, if there's like larger air bubbles, they'll just pop or go away because you're creating such a small stream. So I think, what do they call it? Bombs away. You basically want to go as high as you can and as thin a stream, into your mold box, and that will help you reduce the amount of air bubbles when you're making a silicone mold. Punished Props has a good video on the bombs away method if you want to check that out. I didn't really cover that in my video. Okay, so I'm going to get this kind of set up right here. And did we get some colors? Let's see here. What is the white box? This white box, it's just a mold. It's melamine. I don't think we got any colors yet. Okay. I'm waiting for some colors. I think I'm gonna wow, these blanks are gonna be kind of crazy, I think. While we're in the meantime, I'll give you a shot of these. Look at how cool these things are looking. What? So like I said, I think we got a lot more bleeding than if you would have, you know, waited. But these are going to be some pretty wicked looking blanks. Like I said, there's almost no way to screw up mica powders. Like even if, obviously if I was going for a heavy color separation, this would not be the best. But at the same time, these blanks are going to be pretty good. So not bad. I love mica powders. They're fun. Again, if you're a newbie, if you're just getting into resin casting, I would really recommend just going with mica powders, at least for your first few, while you're kind of learning what's going on, because they're just easy to work with and give you good results, no matter what you pick. Black, oh, were they up? Oh, hold on, let me, oh, wait a minute, where? High pour. They call it bombs away, at least in the mold making, or I mean in the most of the guys in the prop making arena. Let's see, blue and gold. Is that what you said? I see blue and gold as the first ones on mine. Oh wait, lime green, gold. Oh. Heat the note. How warm do I get the molds? I usually put it in my oven. Okay, so mostly I have my oven set at 200 degrees and it just works best the way that I do things for my HDPE molds. I would probably recommend maybe 150 to 180 is a good number to put your oven at, and then leave them in there for a good 20 to 30 minutes. I don't think I would recommend 200 or more. 200 might be, it's okay. It's not going to hurt the silicone molds usually, but I think probably the sweet spot is like 185, and leave it in for 20 to 30 minutes. It's going to be like perfect. You're going to be good to go. All right, so let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Green and black look like the first two. I think green and black were the first two colors that I'm seeing. So let's go with those. Green and black. Okay. So these little channel things, let me get this stuff out of the way. Let's get our little casting area set up. Flip this thing around so I can see the chat. All right, so each one of these little channels, I think it takes about 70 grams of resin total. So 280 grams total for all of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to mix all of my resin in this cup, and then we're going to split it off into another cup, half of it, and we're going to make one of them black, one of them green, and then we will figure out. So I think, so I'll do, you know, like black for this one and then green for this one. And then probably black for this one and then green for the pine cone. I think that'll look the best. So I'm gonna go get some Caster's Choice things. Now for like the black, you know, if you just wanted kind of a glossy black, that would be an easy way to use a dye, an easy instance. Black, you know, you're definitely going to get black if you add black dye. One thing, black dyes are generally going to be, well, at least Alumilite black dye is going to be pretty much opaque. It can be slightly transparent depending on how much you add, but doesn't take much to get it totally opaque with the black. I'm just going to go with, if I can find it, I'm going to go with black pearl, Caster's Choice. Can't find it though. There it is. Black pearl, and we're going to go with spruce green. That's one of the newer colors from Caster's Choice. And it's a good one. It's kind of a darker green. It's pretty cool. If I can find it. All right, I can't find it. Hold on, guys. Oops. We got black. There it is, spruce green. I just had to get it under the lights. So I'll show you this, and I'll show you the bottom of it, so you can actually see the colors. Black pearl is pretty obvious. It's just going to be kind of a pearly black. Spruce green is a pretty interesting color. I like. It's one of my favorite greens. And black pearl, there's, you know, not much. It's kind of no frills. There's not much going on with it, but it's going to give you a nice pearly black. So we got our colors. Let's see what's happening over here. Oh no, not working. That's too bad. Well, the good news is the replay will be up if you want to check it out. Close my eyes. Yeah, I know. Actually, that's a fun way to do things too. All right, so let's go over here, and I'm going to write some notes real quick in my little notebook. Am I on camera? At least you can kind of see what I'm doing. So again, it's going to be 280 grams total. We're going to do, let's see, what's 280 divided? I think I'm just going to mix up 300, because without using a calculator, it's going to be 200 and then 100. Again, liquid diamonds is a 2-to-1 ratio. So we're going to go with 200 grams of part A, 100 grams of part B. A, B, and we are going to do forest green for half of it, and we're going to do black pearl is what it's called for the other half. Now, how much do we got? 150 grams total, 75. Yeah, same thing. This time, I think I'm going to put a half teaspoon. It's going to be loaded up. That's going to be a very good amount. Fully pearly, loaded up kind of good stuff. So, there we go. Let's see, ever tried, I'm sorry, what was Sam asking? I can't see what he was asking. Sorry about that, Sam. I have never tried using embossing powder. Nope. Definitely, glitter's fun. I like doing that. Let's see here. Magnetic flakes. Yeah, I've seen that too. I just don't know exactly how well that would work, I guess, you know. But I think it could be cool. You could orient it somehow in the mold and make it do things. It would take some planning to get that to work, I think, though. All right, so we're over here at the scale. We're going to zero it out. So again, we're going to go 200 grams of part A, 100 of part B. Whoop, I think I went over, yep. 205. We don't want to be at 205. Pour a little bit back. There we go. 198.8. $199. There we go. 200 and a little bit. I'm just gonna grab a little stick here and just kind of grab a little bit of this and bring us back down to 200. All right, 200 on the dot. Zero that out, and we're going to put 100 grams of the part B. And again, I'm going to use my little small cup, and we're just going to kind of sneak up to 100. Add a little bit more. Oops. $99. Ooh, so close. Whoa. Oh, come on. There it is. Oh, there we go. We're going to call that close enough. It's on the cusp. So, take it over here, switch camera views, and do that. All right, so again, we're going to mix this up nice and slow. Where did all my mixing sticks go? I guess I used them all. I'm using wooden sticks. You could use the plastic ones and then just wash them off afterwards. So we're going to just mix this nice and slow. Try not to introduce too many air bubbles. Hey, Franklin, thanks for the super chat. Let's see here. Could you tell me? Tell my soon. Oh, yeah. Am I on? Okay, so we're on camera. What's his name? All right. Let's bring this camera up here. See if I'm on it. Hey Daniel, happy birthday! Hope you're enjoying the stream, and I hope you have a fun time at the birthday. All right, so you're at the birthday party, right? Are you at the birthday party right now? I think so. If you're at the birthday party, I hope you're having a fun time. You got to tell me what you're doing at the party. So cool, that's fun. Bring this back down while we're mixing it up a little bit. I think my favorite place to have birthday parties was at pizza places. I always loved pizza places. There was a really cool one in Carson City where I grew up, and they had like all these really cool arcade games. And they also had these things where it's hard to explain. I don't even know what kind of technology they were, but there was like you had a button, and there was like a big window, a big screen thing, and there was like a baseball game. And then there was also like a shooting, like a skeet or trap. And we always used to love playing those. I don't even know how that technology, those two other games, it was really weird. I've never seen anything like those before. So you push the button, like the ball would on the screen go towards the batter, and then you push the button. It's kind of a weird thing, but anyway, I always liked the pizza party. Did I miss it? I'll make sure that I see. Oh, it's Sunday. Nice. Well, happy to do it. That's cool. Yeah, 7 years old, huh? So let's see, what are you going to be doing for the party? No, it's not really pinball. They had some pinball games. No, I'm okay at pinball. Not that great, though. I like pinball, though. It's fun. Yeah. So here's my thing. You know how everybody, there's always a birthday cake? You know, we have birthday cake. I don't like cake because like most of the cakes that you get for birthdays, it's like that kind of not, it all tastes the same. It's not really that great. And it's just like a bunch of calories. And you're like, at this point, it's just not so much fun. So my thing is, if you're going to have birthday cake, why not make it birthday pie? Because I'd much rather have pie. I think we should make that a thing, like birthday pie. Why do we always have to have cake? Birthday pie. Pie is so much better than cake. Most of them, anyway. Dinosaur Park, how cool! That's awesome. Nice. Hey, I'm glad to hear that, that the videos have helped out, John, and I'll have to go check out your YouTube channel, too. All right, so we're mixing this cup up. It's just about ready to rock here. And again, you know, there's still some air bubbles. It's not like you can, it's almost impossible to not introduce air bubbles when you're mixing your resin. But you want to, you know, minimize it as much as possible by not kind of whipping it. So I'm just kind of slowly stirring here. And when you stir slow, you're going to have to stir your cup for longer than normal. Make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom of the cup real good. Oh man, 1 o'clock. Woo! Well, thanks for staying up. I appreciate it. Yeah, the replay will be available probably Sunday. I think I'll probably be able to get it up. So be checking for that so you can kind of see what we did at the end here. These are some pretty good technique things that you'll want to, you can just skip, you know, skip to the end. Check out how I pour it and any tips that I mentioned. But I kind of already did talk about how I'm going to be doing it. So if you want to go back and just see how it turned out kind of, or you know, how I did it, by all means. Yeah, birthday pie. We got someone else for birthday pie. 2 people on the birthday cheesecake. Now that's not a bad idea. Rice Krispie cake. See, you know, but like, I'm with you guys on that. I still think I like the pie the best personally. But all of those ideas are so much better than birthday cake. That's the main thing. Like birthday cake, I think we need to just ban it. Boycotting birthday cake. Make it anything else but birthday cake. Birthday crispy treats. I like that idea. I'm gonna go weigh this and make sure that I'm putting half of it in there because we kind of need to have the right amount. So let's see, there was 300 total, so I want to put 150 grams in this cup. So is there anybody that like really loves birthday cake? Because I haven't actually talked to anybody. Most people that I say that to, they're like, yeah, I can see that, you know, pie is kind of better. You know, like they generally kind of agree at least, right? Like nobody's been like, oh no, birthday cake's the best thing on the planet. Now there are a couple of cakes that I would say are really awesome. So there's I don't know if it's a national chain or international, but there's a thing called Nothing Bundt cake. Those cakes are awesome. And that's one thing that they're allowed for birthday, okay? But what I'm really talking about is, you know, like the kind of cheap birthday cakes where they're all kind of the same thing and they're all they're adequate, but they're really not that great usually. That's what I'm boycotting. Is there anybody that loves boring birthday cake? I'm just going to call it boring birthday cake. Mediocre birthday cake. Is that your thing? Okay, so we're going to do half a teaspoon of each of these colors. So we got spruce green here. I'm going to just for the heck of it, I'm going to show you the fronts too. Whoops, this way. We got some black and some spruce green, and they're very pretty. So I'm just going to put a half teaspoon of spruce green in here, half teaspoon of black in there. And I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon, so we're going to do 2 of these scoops. 1, 2, and I went a little over. You really can't put too much in there. I really don't know if there's an upper limit to how much mica powder you can put in resin. I mean, I guess if you put like, you know, if you filled the cup with this much mica powder and put that much resin in it, you're probably going to be kind of screwed. But, you know, for anything realistic, I mean, it's kind of hard. I don't think you can really put too much mica powder in. For pen blanks especially, you really want to load it up. Because you turn it down to such a thin amount that otherwise you'll see the tube. And in some cases, you know, some mica powders just, they're so thin or transparent, kind of light, that you're going to see it no matter what you do. See the tube. So in those, you know, you want to use a colored tube, painted tube, or you can paint the inside of the blank to hide that. Let's see here. I'm missing the chat, guys. Hold on a minute. I'll have to talk to you a little later about that, Brian. Whoop. Let's just get that out of the way. So again, we're trying to be a little bit careful. My biggest problem is I'm so used to just like, with most resins, I'm just mixing it furiously to get it done because there's no reason to do it slowly. So my tendency is to kind of go faster than I probably should with this stuff, but I still don't think we're going to have any problems. Liquid diamonds, again, this resin is so thin that it makes freeing the air bubbles. They tend to rise out of it pretty easily. But you're better off not keeping as few bubbles as possible out of your cup to begin with, because if they're not in here to begin with, then they're not going to end up in your mold. Let's see here. Cake is nice. Christina likes cake. Now, birthday cake in Sweden might be completely different, but I'm talking about like American boring cake. I might have to agree with you about if, you know, like Swedish cake might be like way better. Then I might, you know, have to eat my words a little bit. New Zealand one. I had cake after lasagna from cheesecake. Yeah, see, most people homemade. Okay, now homemade chocolate cake. Well, as long as the person that's making it knows what they're doing, kind of, it's okay. I still think I'd rather have pie, but pizza pie. I'm with you. I love pizza. Certain resins degrade the silicone mold. That's a really good question. And yes, epoxies are pretty tough on silicones. So they can degrade the mold a little bit more. Polyester resin ends up shrinking a lot, so it doesn't usually wear on it. Alumilite's kind of in the middle. It really doesn't wear too hard on it, but after a while it will. For silicone molds, Alumilite shouldn't really wear it out too much. That one is for silicone, not really. Now for the HDPE molds, over time, it's going to kind of wear them down a bit. Alumilite clear will. So this used to be completely smooth. And so, you know, after a while, now I may have used epoxy in this, and epoxy on HDPE, I would actually recommend using a mold release if you're going to cast epoxy in HDPE for the most part. It's going to significantly extend the life of it. I don't think it's really necessary for silicone molds as long as you're using the higher quality. The pink one that we did the first casting in, that is just a tin cure silicone. It's like the cheaper silicone. And epoxy is going to wear on that a lot harder than this blue one, which is a platinum cure. So, you know, if you're making a mold and you use epoxy mostly, I would highly recommend going with the platinum cure silicone. And if you're buying them, try and find one, the higher quality ones. Now, if you're buying Fred Wisson's molds, the blue ones are the platinum. The pink ones are the old ones, but I think he's actually just phasing out the pink because there's so many people that use epoxy that it's kind of, may as well just make them all the same. Yeah, store-bought. Okay, that's a good way to say it. Store-bought cake. That's what I'm thinking of, is that nasty-ish store-bought. The problem is, like, I'm not that much of like this calorie counter or whatever, but I am cognizant of what I'm putting in my body. And like, there is no nutrition, there's no anything, there's a lot of sugar, there's a bunch of calories that are just useless. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, you know, you eat that piece of cake and you're like, that wasn't even good. Why did I just stick that in my body? Like, that's why this came around. And I'm like, you know, if I'm going to do that, at least it should be rewarding. It should taste good and be like, yeah, that was awesome. I'm glad that I cheated, or, you know, whatever. I'm glad that I, whatever. Okay, so let's get to pouring these guys. I'll stop talking about birthday cake. Although I feel very strongly about it, obviously. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do for the aluminum honeycomb. Now, a couple other notes about aluminum honeycomb that I want to mention, and I'm, again, not really, I really should have stuck this in the oven. I would actually recommend heating up your aluminum honeycomb as well. It will promote better, I don't want to say adhesion. The honeycomb that I sell adheres the best out of everything that I tried anyway. But if it's cooler, the resin will tend to want to kind of suck back a little bit. And that might happen because I didn't heat these up. You're going to get the best results, you know, if you were just casting this. Like I said, I should have put this whole thing in the oven. And actually, even with these wood pieces, like, it would have been smartest while I was talking and doing this resin mixing to put this in the oven and heat up all of these things. So, but definitely with the honeycomb, you can get some areas where the resin kind of pulls back here and there. Not a big problem. You can fill it with CA glue, but best results, best adhesion, and best, you know, full, yeah, I guess adhesion in a sense. Heat it up, and then it's even a good idea to heat up, you know, pine cones. This pine cone was stabilized. Still a good idea to heat it up, and these are stabilized and dyed. Not a bad idea to heat it up, just because the resin likes warm things. And if you pour the resin into something cold, it's going to kind of suck back to like the center where it's warmest. So just a couple of tips. Like I said, do as I say, not as I do. When I'm making blanks, I go through a specific, you know, order of things, and I always heat things up like that. But kind of talking about birthday cake and trying to cast stuff. And so, you know, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna do, let's see, we're gonna do black in here, I think would be the best, and then green in this one. So let's pour our green in. For the pine cone, I think it's best to pour the resin in and then push this down in. I think that you will trap the least amount of resin that way. Or I mean air, trap the least amount of air. So I'm gonna pour about, it's just, that ought to be good. And then we'll push this down in and I'll fill it up, you know, fill up the remainder in a, oops, broke that piece off. It's okay. And then we'll just kind of fill around the edges here on the top. Just want to make sure that I'm not trapping air underneath in the bottom, which is why I like to push it down in. You can see the resin's kind of, you know, wrapping around all these areas. You can pour a little bit on the top, but you run the risk of kind of trapping some air pockets by doing it that way. So in general, you're best off to try and pour at a lower spot and let it kind of flow in and around. Or if you're going to pour into something like a small crevice, pour a very small, thin amount. And let's see here. Let's go with I think black in this one. Okay. And then we'll go with green for this one. I think that'll just kind of look cool. So again, if you got something that has like cells like this, definitely you want to push that down into the resin. Otherwise, you really run the risk of just trapping a bunch of air, you know, if you pour it on top. All right. Now, there's just a very small amount. It's not perfect yet, but you're okay to kind of pour a little bit on the top. You still, again, could run the risk of trapping an air bubble here and there, but at least on the top, you know, it's going to be a pretty small air pocket if you do that. If you filled most of it with resin off the bat, and the air doesn't have very far to flow to get to the surface if you've filled most of it and then done what I'm doing right now. So just a couple of, like I said, just a couple of little tips that'll kind of help. But the main thing is you definitely want to pour for these honeycombs, pour the resin in first and push it down in. Now there's little air bubbles here and there, but I think that they'll be okay. I think they'll rise to the surface with no problems. To ensure that you don't have any air bubbles though, again, it's best to just use a pressure pot. If you do get an air bubble or two, not a huge deal. You can just fill it with CA glue. I got a little bit of pine cone piece down in here that I want to get out of there, if possible. I'm going to get some tweezers. All right, that ought to be okay. All right, so with these ones though, I'm going to push these all the way down to the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour, I want to make sure that that's as far down as I can get it. We're going to pour it to the bottom part of this cell, you know, in the mold, so that the resin is flowing up and around our pieces. You won't really trap any air as long as it's flowing around and then up and over stuff. All right, so let's see if you can see what's going on here. See how it's kind of flowing around there? Now you can kind of tap your mold, and that'll kind of help promote the air bubbles, if there are any down in the bottom, to kind of move out and start floating up. That kind of helps out. Again, vibration can help. Heat can help. Best bet is to warm up your mold and warm up all your little embedment pieces as well. You'll get the best results that way. I'm going to top off this black honeycomb one. See all those little air bubbles? That's, I was trapping air. I trapped a little bit of air in there, and there's bubbles floating to the top. They don't have very far to go on the top like this, so I'm not as concerned. The other thing is, we're pretty much, you know, when you turn this pen blank, you're going to turn that away anyway, so it's not a big deal. I'm just kind of trying to fill in, make sure we got this thing filled to the brim. But that's about it. Hopefully this was kind of helpful for you guys. Not, you know, none of this is rocket science, and I think that most people can kind of, you know, would have probably kind of figured out all this stuff just by doing it. But hopefully some of these little tricks and, you know, tips that I shared in the video today, you know, will help out and make sure that you get the best results possible if you're, you know, in a situation where you can't use pressure or you don't have a pressure pot available to you. Hopefully some of these tips will guarantee success. I'm going to probably, let's see here, let's do probably not going to get a full one, but I think I'm going to pour, I have some excess there. Oh. Hold on real quick, guys. I think we'll pour the excess in a pipe. Don't know if it's going to really be enough, but we might get kind of a half. Ouch. A half. I think we're better off going with make some pendants. Well, yeah, we might be able to get like half a pen blank. We'll go with a PVC pipe. All right, so I'm going to scoot the camera back real quick for a sec. Sorry I haven't been able to look at the chat. Zoom out, get everything going over here. Gotta get my camera plugged in so it doesn't die. All kinds of things going on, guys. I really need to get a new camera. Power plug just won't stay plugged in. Oh, I think I totally jacked my... Hold on. I think I jacked the power cord thing. Got to get this fixed. Otherwise, we're going to have some problems. Well, I think I broke it, guys. Okay, so we're gonna have to finish this stream before my camera dies. All right, so we're, am I on camera? Yeah. So I'm gonna just spray this out. I'm gonna try Stoner, even though this is liquid diamonds. I'm gonna spray the heck out of it with Stoner urethane mold release, and we're just gonna kind of see how this works. It'll be interesting. I haven't done it for a while, so I just want to kind of test this out. Typically, you're going to want to use a slightly different mold release. The thermoset is usually the one to go with from Stoner, and other brands have different names because it's a polyurethane resin. We're going to give it a try though. Okay, so let's get zoomed in a little bit here, and I'll just kind of I want to get some clarifications on a couple of things before I do videos on them from Curtis Seebeck, since he's the master of it. But in the meantime, if, like I said, I have one on double dye stabilizing that'll kind of show you how I do it. And then also Casey Martin just did one. I haven't seen that one yet, but I heard it's pretty good. Ice cream cake. Now that's not too bad. I like that. Okay, I missed a lot, and I'm going to have to kind of skip up. And OJ, what's up, man? Thanks for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. Same with you, Jerry. Awesome. No, stabilizing is done with cactus juice. And it's a totally different process than resin casting. All right. Cool. So I don't think I missed too much. And I think you guys can see what's going on here. So I'm going to get rid of my mixing sticks because they're just going to be in the way and fall out. Be a little bit easier with a smaller than quart size mixing cup. And, but should be all right. I'm going to kind of bend this one, get a little nozzle going, and I'm going to kind of sort of just bend this one around. So I'm just going to kind of pour these guys in. Now this is probably going to make a gigantic mess, but you could use a funnel. That works. But I'm just going to try and, black ketchup. Get these guys going here. Now for best results, you probably want to kind of wait till, there's a lot more resin than I thought in there. Wait till closer to the end of the working time. However, if you're not using pressure, again, you kind of run the risk of when you wait till the end of the working time, it's going to thicken up, which is going to make bubbles harder to get out, especially if it's like, if you're pouring it fairly thick into a tube, you're probably going to trap air bubbles. So, you know, it's going to keep the colors separated, but you might get more air bubbles if you wait, you know, till closer to the end of the working time. Hopefully these won't, you know, mix together too much. I think we'll be all right. Now, the other one that we did, if you're just joining us, we did a flip cup pour, and I didn't really wait that long. I didn't even time it. So we got quite a bit of bleeding, but I think they're going to be pretty awesome blanks. I don't know. Made a little bit of a mess over there too, but it was fun. Let me get some shots of the other ones that we made here before we go. Make sure that you guys kind of see what's happening. I'm just going to pick up the camera, I think, kind of because we got like the glares happening. I'll kind of give you a shot of this. And then we got, let me raise this up a little bit. I don't know if you're going to be able to see a whole lot of this one, especially if I don't point the camera at it. Because like both of those colors are pretty dark, but actually I think this one's going to turn out kind of cool. There are some separations going on. This is really hard with a really long tripod. I don't know if you can see that black and green color separation on this side, but I think this one's going to be all right. Now, there's still quite a bit of time, open time, working time left with this batch, so you know these colors can kind of move around during that time, but I think they're going to be good. And then here is our flip cup. Look at those crazy cells. I always see the resin art people talking about the cells. These are just mica powders and we're making cool cells. All right. So I'm going to switch, well, real quick guys, I'm going to move my camera over to the starting position and we'll wrap things up. Let's see here. RC, no, you do not want to do this with Alumilite Clear. Anyway, Alumilite Clear, the regular set is absolutely way too fast, and even the slow set, which sounds like it's a slow setting resin, it's really not long enough. Alumilite doesn't free bubbles as well either for some reason. I don't really know what that is. But the main thing is with only 12 minutes of working time, it's just not enough time for all those air bubbles to get up and out of your resin. So definitely don't want to do that with Alumilite Clear. Alumilite, they have another product called Amazing Clear Cast, which has a really long working time, and it's okay. It's a really thick product though, so I'm not 100% sure, but I do know people that do use it without pressure. Liquid Diamonds is really thin viscosity and it's got like a 45-minute working time, so that's what I like to use if I was going to be doing this type of thing. I'm trying to think what else. Polyester resin is kind of up in the air because honestly it really doesn't have that long of a working time, but I do know that a lot of people use it without pressure, so I guess it works, but I have a feeling that you're probably more likely to get bubbles in polyester resin than with some of the other really longer, you know, 45-minute or longer working times. So I think Royal Palm resin, that one probably is has a pretty long working time, should work fine without pressure. I'm trying to think of other ones. What other ones are there? Max 1618 should be okay, or the Max CLR. Anything else that you guys know of? I don't really work with a lot of epoxies, so I'm not sure which other ones, but Liquid Diamonds works good for it, definitely. Yeah, Liquid Diamonds doesn't smell at all. It smells kind of sweet. It's if anything, it smells pretty good, I would say. So let's see here. Now they were asking if you have to stabilize pine cones. You don't have to, but you're definitely going to get. It's going to be like less brittle if you don't stabilize it. Those little pine cone sides, the little leaves are like really kind of brittle, and it's just not as fun to turn, I would say. Since I sell a lot of the blanks that I make, anything with a pine cone, I'm like, if I can make the turning of it better by stabilizing the material, I definitely will. Not entirely necessary though, I wouldn't say that, but you definitely, no matter what you do, anything that you embed in resin has to be dried completely to 0% moisture content. So that's the only thing that is absolutely have to, but it definitely works better on pine cones if you can. And let's see here. Let's see, I'm just trying to make sure. John says that Amazing Clear is good. I don't personally like Amazing Clear Cast. It wasn't enjoyable to work with when they sent me some to try it out, and I was like, I wouldn't use this personally, but I have very specific reasons. 18 hours is the demold time. That's ridiculous. There's so many other products out there that are like 8. That Total Boat's thick also. The thing about Total Boat is I don't know what its characteristics are. That's another thing about it. Somebody asked, you know, which resins are good for resin river tables. And, you know, we use in the turning world kind of, you know, Alumilite and Liquid Diamonds and Royal Palm. And there's certain ones that a lot of us, you know, use, polyester resin. My only issue with a table is for a turner, you're going to want something that's kind of hard, you know, not brittle, but you want a hard resin because you're going to turn it and you want to polish it up. The resin river table, I don't know, like you'd almost want something a little bit more flexible, possibly for a table. It's going to be under stress and you're going to put weight on it. So that's, I think, my biggest question with those two products. And so when people talk about turning Total Boat, which I've never tried, I don't know if it's really hard enough when you compare it to other resins that would be, you know, really better for turning. I just don't know. But yeah, cups on Amazon. Let's see here. Yeah, you need to send me a sticker, totally. Okay, so before I go though, I wanted to share, I did post some pics of the color change, the thermochromic stuff that we did. Unfortunately, oh, I have my heat gun now. Hold on a minute, guys. I can show you totally. So at the end, if anybody wants to stay, we're not going to do anything else. So if anybody saw those posts and wants to head out, that's cool. But I'm going to plug in my heat gun. I'm going to fire up that camera and hope it doesn't die. And I'll show you guys. I'm pretty stoked about those that thermochromic stuff. Okay, I've never used this heat gun before, so I have no clue what I'm doing. Oh, nice. Huh. Okay, sorry, I just had to look at that real quick. And I'm not going to forget to switch cameras. I think I'm actually going to bring the camera around over here. It's easiest for me to show you guys stuff. Yeah, I was pretty excited about these color change things. I think that, I mean, we'll see, you know, in the end after we've turned them. That's my only question. But so far, the blanks are pretty cool. And I'm kind of thinking that once we turn these pens down, I think they're going to be better. You know, it's going to be thinner and things should work even faster. But so far, no complaints from me. Okay. Switch camera views. So there's the blanks. So we did, let's see here, we did 3. I'm gonna have to, let me pull out my book because I'm not entirely certain what exactly we did now. But again, that's a good reason to keep notes. All right, so we did, these ones are purple and turquoise, and obviously they're looking purple right now. I have held these things and they do turn color, but it's going to be a lot faster if we just hit it with a heat gun. I think. Oh, the temperature. Let's get the temperature up. It's not very warm. It's a new heat gun, guys. I'm trying to get... Ah, there we go. Check that out. I mean, pretty good. And the colors, this purple and turquoise, I really like both of these colors. They turn out pretty good. So we got purple and turquoise. We did, let's see here, what was this one? Purple, black, and pink, I think is what these are. Purple and pink are working good. I don't know about the black thing. Definitely purple and pink though. I'm not seeing really any black though anywhere. And then let's see here. We did the triple. These are yellow, black, orange, and yellow. So you can kind of see some yellow going on right there, but black. But again, I'm not really seeing orange on these triples. And it may just be because we went way, you know, like the two numbers are kind of close, I think. But definitely black and yellow looks good there. Got a little bit of black and yellow there. And then we did some, here's the purple turquoise. That one's looking good. Again, this is supposedly a triple color thing, but I'm not really seeing any black. The purple and pink are looking good. And I think we doubled the, which one did we double? I might have to actually go back to the video. 2 single. Oh yeah, so these had double the amount of powder, I think, in these. I don't know if there's that much significant difference necessarily. And then these ones had, I put some, let's see, mica powder in one, and we put dye in the other, I think. And I gotta be honest, it actually seems like it affected it. It doesn't seem to really work as well. This is the one with, I think that one might have mica in it. And I mean, it's really not changing colors. So, I don't know, we'll have to see. It doesn't seem like these work as well if you add other stuff to it. It's kind of changing. It's changing colors, but it's kind of weird. It's kind of an odd color now. So I don't know. There's some results from last week, and what I plan to do is, no, you don't have to go colder. It's I don't think so anyway. Let me double check. I'm gonna, do I have, I think I have the instructions. Maybe not. Let me just double check on their website. I don't think it's colder though. We'll have to see. Oh, and don't forget guys, there's a discount code at solarcolordust.com. Hold on a minute. www.solarcolordust.com is where you can pick up these powders, and if you enter Dunkin' Junk, you save, I think it's 5%. So that's the code word. What type of glue? I would use hot glue. Anna, it really depends on how much, like what you want to, it would really depend. That's a tough question for me to answer. I think, let's see here. A beginner lathe, I mean, you can get really cheap ones for like a couple $100, and I mean, they go up to, you know, over 1,000 US. It just kind of depends on what you want to get. And I would say that it probably depends on where you're at, also, where you're located. if you said you're from Spain, I'm not sure if you're in the States or in Spain. I don't really know what's available in Europe. Here, though, if you go to Harbor Freight, there's really cheap ones. They're really terrible quality, but it'll get you going. And then there's just, there's levels from there. I have a Comet, which is a pretty good starter lathe. Let me switch views. And it's about 500 bucks. It's not a bad lathe, so Nova Comet 2. It's got a lot of features for around, I think they're like $550 or so. So that's not a bad way to go, but if you're just kind of starting out, want to learn, and a mini lathe is all right, then Harbor Freight sells some pretty cheap ones. The other thing that I would recommend is try and find a used one, and you can get a much better quality lathe perhaps for cheaper and start out at a higher end. So not a bad way to go. Dunk a triple ice in water. Hold on. So let me go to their website and I want to look at the triple. I don't think it was like 80 and 100 or something. Thermal. Hold on real quick. Let me just look this up. Because now I'm a little bit, yeah, 82 and 95. So I don't think that I'm missing. We might have just blown right by 85 on those, maybe, I guess, but I'm not seeing, orange. I don't know what temperature this is, but maybe it wasn't hot enough. Maybe it was, I don't know. Black and yellow worked pretty good. So you might, it may depend on which one you buy, how well it works, I guess, and how, I don't know, how good the color turns out. I will say that I'm extremely impressed with purple to turquoise. That is a really good combination. Is that what it's called? Yeah, purple to turquoise is, in person here, that's a pretty good color combination. But I'm going to kind of save my final judgment on this stuff for, once we get them turned and polished up. I want to see how these things actually turn out as pens before I'd really say, oh yeah, that's a great thing to do, or yeah, kind of flinky. I don't know. So yeah, that's another good point, Robert. If you have a turning club locally, they will let you, a lot of times they'll let you use their equipment, or you might find somebody that will let you come over to their shop and do it. But a lot of the clubs actually have their own lathes and wood and all kinds of stuff in the tools, so you can kind of get hands-on before you even have to buy anything, if you can join a club that has those services. Yeah, heat sensitive, that's right. Yeah, but I mean the problem, he said the heat gun went past, but when it came down, it also didn't turn orange. So that's my only issue with those ones. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what's going on. All right, guys, I think that's probably about it for tonight. So I went a little bit longer than I expected, but that's cool. We had fun with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to help the show out, you can do so with the super chat, or head over to patreon.com/NVWoodworks. We got a couple of different reward levels over there if you want to help support the show directly. And let's see. So next week, we're going to be doing something else. Probably, let's see. I had an idea for next week. I can't remember what it was now, though. So we'll have a new live stream next week. It should be pretty fun. Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Same time as always every week. So it should be kind of cool. Again, hope you guys had fun hanging out. We were just kind of playing around. But hopefully some of these tips and tricks and ideas, at least some of the things that I mentioned about, why do you need to use pressure in some cases, hopefully that'll save you guys from, pouring some blanks that just turn out terrible because they're riddled with air bubbles. And if you're, starting out, hopefully some of these little tips and tricks will kind of help you get better results while you're, just starting out and don't have pressure. So I guess until next time, guys, I will have the replay up on, probably I'll have it ready on Sunday because I won't have a video ready to go this Sunday. So Sunday, I will kind of post the replay of this one. If you need to go back and check it out, it'll be up there for you on Sunday. And I hope you guys all have a great weekend. And yeah, get out in the shop, turn something or cast something. And I hope to see you guys all next Friday. So have a great evening, guys. Thanks for joining the fun tonight.